Hello and welcome to Lockdown Beers here on Monday. It's Labor Day and sorry folks, we are an hour later than normal. Normally it's 5 p.m. We'll be back to 5 p.m. Tomorrow, but today we are at 6 p.m. because I was dropping off my daughters. So there we go. I've got the old Spates lined up for my Lockdown Beer, and obviously you should all not be working on Labor Day because it is Labor Day. Obviously Mr. Harris has decided that he's going to do some product placement there with his Coca-Cola, no sugar. For those who podcast fantastically joining in there, Mr. Harris. So, yes, there we go. Not sponsored by, but certainly employed. One of us is employed by a certain product that may or may not have been on screen already. Some of the stuff we'll have a chat about today: Moana Pasifika, the top 10 best player or highest paid players in the world. A bit of Black Ferns Sevens, a bit of Black Ferns warm up. The Black Ferns 15, sorry, we'll talk about. So that's what's on the cards for today. How are you doing, sir?
Very good. Thank you, Paul. Good to be on the show. And it's, hey, we got a bit of sun out in the 09 today after what's been a very damp weekend, but took the opportunity to head out for a nice long walk earlier this morning. Yes.
There we go. At 6 o'clock on the dot, I open up my beer. Normally I open up at 5 o'clock on the dot. I don't know why I've just taken all my normal habits and just moved them back an hour, but there we go. All for the show. And those of you on the podcast realize that I go live about 2 minutes before just to say hello to everybody and get the beer open. So there we go. Don't forget, folks, you can join us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search for New Zealand Sport Radio or at Driving Maul on Twitter. And also you become a supporter over at patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio to help us with all the tech and stuff so we can bring you these shows. But Stephen, as advertised on Friday, we had a triple naming from Moana Pasifika today. And it was all locks, wasn't it? With Mike McKee, Don Lolo, have I said it right? Yeah, Lolo.
Yep.
And Becca So, Polinati. They're the three people being named, one from the Cook Islands, two from Tonga. And that pads out their lock stocks. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, Mike McKee, we had a little bit of a heads up that being obviously with Cook Island parentage, that he was a good chance, a good footballer, good line out forward. Don Lolo, don't know much about him, although he did make his debut for Tonga this year. Now, apparently he plays for the Taieri club down in Otago, and he actually has been selected for Otago a couple of seasons back, but turned the opportunity down to follow through with a bit of work and study, but has played a bit of heartland rugby for North Otago. But I'm reliably informed he is a very, very good athlete. The stats that I might have actually posted on our rugby chat are a little bit off. He's listed as around about 6'5", 6'6", round about 120 kg, so he is an athlete. Vaikoso Polianitani, I don't really know a heck of a lot about, only that he's played a bit of heartland rugby for South Canterbury. So listen, you almost could say you might be a little bit underwhelmed, but on saying that, on our rugby chat we also mentioned Carl Tunukuafi, who came from club rugby, and boy, look how he cracked it. So listen, I think they're just taking maybe a punt on these guys, and from what I've been able to ascertain, both really, really good athletes.
Yeah, look, I mean, lock is becoming the hardest or the most sought after position in rugby as the height of locks gets higher and higher. And now that's, like if you look at some locks from 10 years ago, you can get away with being much shorter than you can do nowadays. So, and there is fewer people who are that height. And also good rugby players. So lock is becoming one of the most sought after positions, or one of the best paid positions in rugby. And we'll talk about some of the best paid players in the world in a second or two. But so this was always going to be a difficult area for them, or for all teams, to find players, to be honest. And yes, these guys, I wouldn't say underwhelmed, but I would say they've definitely flown under the radar. And these are the three players that when we put together our squad for Moana Pasifika a few weeks ago now, or a month or so, or maybe even 2 months ago now. These are three guys we didn't pick because they weren't on the radar from a Bunnings NPC point of view. And even though Vakaso Poliati was, and I butchered it again, sorry folks, is playing for Manawatu. He was down. The flag he has on Wikipedia is New Zealand. So hence I didn't realise he was a Tongan player, and hence that's why we missed him. So three players so that we didn't spot. Mike McKee injured unfortunately, so he's missed out on this Bunnings NPC season, but was going to be down in Southland, I think, on this one. So as Nocturnal Right says, the South represent for Moana Pasifika. Yes, people from the South Island getting their chance, which is fantastic to see. So, already, I say, well, one of them's Cook Island. The other two are, I think, they were both already capped for Tonga. And so, look, again, that authenticity, folks. This is definitely staying that way. With that.
Paul, I was going to say, listen, both these two with a bit of experience could grow into, in fact, all these three players could grow into very, very good, mature Super Rugby players. Both Lolo and Polo Niati have actually were originally from the latter two were originally from Auckland, and Polo Niati actually played for Sacred Heart, and I see Don Lolo also schooled up here in Auckland as well, but also played a lot of his junior rugby for Ponsonby. So these kids, they've definitely got some talent, and listen, hopefully we'll be really happy if they go forward from there. It does, if that's the locks that they have named, it probably does still leave an opening for, say, somebody like a Sam Slade who can actually play both six and lock. I think they'll need that extra cover as well.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some Tuapolotu, Sione Tuapolotu, who is also is kind of they mentioned as a loose forward, but he has played lock as well. So yeah, I'd expect to see another two signings in the locking department to come. Because they've only got three and a kind of a dual option player so far named. So I say I expect a couple more names to be named in there, and we'll have to just wait and see who those names are. We've still not had any hookers named yet, so I expect to see a hooker named over the next few days. But I'll expect us to have. I think we're planning to have an announcement at 2 p.m. every single day this week. So that helps us with the 5 p.m. lockdown beers, have something to talk about, and we will do that every single day this week. So do join us for all of those ones, folks. And Nocturnal Rights, wow, is pulling up his 80s reference here, is that Sam Slade used to be a 2000 AD comic character. So there we go. Good name there.
There's the locals in the background, Paul.
Sorry, yes, my locals. Yes, the locals were there. Yeah, with their wonderful cars. I love them practicing how fast they can make them go up and down the streets at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's fantastic. It's the perfect time to be doing it. On though to some Black Ferns news. Now, one of the things that they said was that they were going to be undercooked, and we had little sympathy, let's be honest, for the head coach around that because of the way he pulled them out of the Farrah Palmer Cup latter rounds when they were still in the country and could very easily have played. They have had a couple of warm-up games over the last, yesterday. So we'll just bring you up to speed with those folks. They took on the England under-20s and beat them 83-3. With Aisha Leti Ilaga scoring 4 tries and Patricia Maliepo with 23 points there in that one. They followed that up by playing Wales and winning that one 53-7. Portia Woodman picking up 3 tries and Rennie Wycliffe with another 2 tries as well. So 2 training run-outs, let's be honest. The under-20s, they were always going to beat. And Wales look, they've had their issues with basically funding being pulled from their 15s and 7s tournaments. Now, I think that's been put back to a certain degree because of some of the publicity that came out from their Great Britain player, who is I've forgotten her name now, but it's a fantastic player. But yeah, so Wales not had not in the hunt for those top 3 or 4 places in the world. But yeah, I mean, 2 run-outs, 2 big scores, blow the cobwebs off, Stephen.
Yeah, pretty much. But I'll tell you what, they probably would have been a lot better for it if some of them were playing in the Farah Palmer Cup. I know I should move on from that, but it's just really that hard level of rugby you want. But I suppose when you've got a whole squad there that are probably, you can only do so much. You can only be the tourist for so long. I actually saw them singing a lovely waiata at I think it was the new Wembley Stadium. I think it was, and it's really sounded very, very impressive. And like I say, you can only do so much of the touristy thing before you want to get into what you're over there for. It's to play a bit of code.
Yep, no, absolutely. And something that was really interesting, I just saw on the Black Ferns Twitter feed, which surprises me, is that look, we there is so much more that could be done with the women's game, but we also need to remember just how far or where we're coming from. It's only 5 years ago, or 4 years ago. It's 2018. Is that 4 or 5 years ago? Anyway, whatever it is, that the Black Ferns were capped for the first ever time. Wow. Having a team around a World Cup winning team weren't capped until 2018. I mean, that's just a bit of a farce. Which gives you an idea as to how far we've come with the women's game. Sure, we do have a Super Rugby tournament next year that's only going to be 4 weeks long, but is it 4 weeks or 5 weeks long? Anyway, I think it's 4 weeks long. Look, we're coming from a very low point. At least we're heading in the right direction with some of these things. Let's just hope. Well, one of the things that Steve Chu said a few years back was that they needed to not make the same mistakes with the women's game as they've done with the men's game. You look around it and you're thinking, well, as far as I can see at the moment, they're treated exactly. They are making those same mistakes. So, look, I hope they would learn from that. But it's heading in the right direction. But it's not a smooth path. Let's be honest. Also, the Black Ferns Sevens have got an award from the Tokyo Olympics. The International Olympic Committee has named the Black Ferns Sevens as the best female team at the Tokyo Olympics. Fantastic honour for them for that one. Congratulations to the Black Ferns Sevens for that. Clearly, when they were over there, they carried themselves extremely well. Some of the interviews they did were very good, and didn't end up sort of smashing up any bars or getting drunk or doing anything silly either. So it's great to see some rugby players doing the right kind of thing.
Yeah, very much so, Paul. I think a lot of the stuff they did, especially not just for their performances on the field, but I think the way they carried themselves off the field with their interviews, just basically with their humbleness. I think that just resonated with not only the journalists that were there, because it's pretty much the journalists are the ones writing the articles about them, but I think all the images we saw from around the world touched people in the right places, and even in a situation where they were probably fortunate to beat Fiji, and was it the semi-final? It was, Paul. I think even they recognised, I think they paid great homage to that Fijian team at the time, and I think once again that resonated with people as well. Everybody likes a how shall I say, a humble winner, Paul.
Absolutely. They carried themselves fantastically both on and off the pitch, which is great to see here. Nocturnal Rights says that he likes the idea of the Black Ferns playing around 7 tests a year, and the top players always being available for the domestic comp, build the pace properly. Yes, the question is which domestic comp. I think it's going to be Super Rugby, not the Farah Palmer Cup. I do think they'll go the same way as the men from that point of view. Look, there has been talk of some international competitions, including the USA, Canada, Australia, in that. and probably Japan as well. So have some sort of Pacific competition for the women there. So look, it's obviously COVID has got in the way of getting that properly set up. We saw them go over to the US to I think I can't remember if it was Vegas or San Francisco, San Diego, one of those places a couple of years back along with France, England, and forgotten the other two teams that were in that involved, Canada and Ireland, I think probably. Anyway, who played a round robin tournament there, which was fantastic. So look, it's clearly on. It's coming, but they've got 4 tests this year: 2 against England, 2 against France coming up. Unfortunately, the Wallabies tests that we're going to, not the Wallabies, the Wallaroos tests that were going to be played during the Bledisloe Cup games. I think we're going to the plan for 2 of them. 2 of those didn't go ahead because of COVID travel restrictions. So unfortunately that didn't manage to happen. But yeah, we're getting towards that 7 tests mark. But I wouldn't be surprised to see it head up towards the 10 and 14 that the All Blacks play in the next sort of 5, maybe 10 years. Obviously not next year, but I can see it happening pretty soon, to be honest with you. If you think that the sides in Europe, so England will have played 5 Six Nations games plus these 2 tests now, so they'll have played 7 this year, as will France. So they're getting there as well. But whilst England and France are progressing, Ireland have gone backwards at a rate of knots. Wales are in serious problems as well. Scotland also haven't. So it is. We basically have about 3 countries sort of kind of making heading forwards, and all the rest standing still or going backwards, which doesn't make for a good international competition. We're going to need other teams to step forward as well. It doesn't help when you hear stories, and I've gone and lost the tweet that mentions it, but teams like if you want the USA to progress, they're going to need money. I've talked previously about them being in bankruptcy. I saw a tweet. Now, it's a tweet. Is it true? Is it not? I don't know. Which suggests that the All Blacks took about 1.4, 1.6, can't remember the exact number, million from that game in the US, and the USA got 250,000, which doesn't seem very fair to me, Stephen. No, and especially if you're trying to grow rugby in the States, that's not going to help much, is it?
I did see that tweet myself, and I kind of wondered at the time, firstly, if it was accurate. But I guess if you're going to put something out there in Twitter land, as I very well know, you want to make sure that it's relatively, or at least close to 100% accurate, so that there's no reason not to disbelieve that. So once again,
look, I'm not going to take it as gospel, but I've not heard anyone say anything different.
I guess nobody's refuted that claim.
So how are they going to grow their women's team if they don't have cash at the end of the day? So let's just hope that that isn't true, and hopefully the USA got a bit more than that out of it. The All Blacks obviously will say that it was their brand that got all the ticket sales and the TV. True, it was, but if you want to grow the game, you need to let them have some of the funds as well, and that discrepancy was large. And had them complain previously about how much the RFU makes from a game during a test window and saying they deserve half the money, you got to say Kettle and Black springs to mind there on that one. A bit of a fun thing then to finish off with. I don't know how accurate this is, but apparently the ruck.co.uk has made a list of the top 10 paid rugby players globally in 2021, and there's not many All Blacks involved there, but unsurprisingly, as we know that the money from Europe is higher. But Charles Piutau still top of the table there with Henry Pollard, both apparently earning £1 million or nearly 2 million New Zealand dollars a year. Charles Piutau obviously available all year round because he's not going to get selected by the All Blacks, and he didn't turn up to the Sevens qualifying tournament, so therefore he's not been able to change himself over to Tonga either. So you can see why he's getting paid a lot of that there with that one. But so we've got a fullback there and a fly half. In third place comes Eben Etzebeth on £900,000 over in France. Before we see Finn Russell and Cheslin Colby. And as we've said before, Cheslin Colby, arguably the best rugby player in the world. So not surprised to see him up there. But then we've got Maro Toji at 6. At 7, Virami Vakatawa and Bowden Barrett, apparently £780,000 or close to $1.5 million New Zealand dollars. And then Michael Hooper and Owen Farrell. So if we look at that list with Vakatawa, and am I going to get myself I'm going to mistake what position he plays in now and get it wrong. But with because he's a wing centre. Geez, I was going to say he was a lock for a second there. Let me get my head screwed off. But Maro Toji, Eben Etzebeth. So we've got 2 locks in the top 10. No no props or hookers. Only 1 loose forward in Michael Hooper. No scrum halves in there. But with Omri Pollard, Finn Russell, Bowden Barrett and Owen Farrell, we've got 4 fly halves. A centre come wing in Vakatawa. And then Charles Piatow and Cheslin Colby. So 2 outside backs. Interesting split there of the highest 10, or position-wise, the highest 10 players seen.
Yeah, you wouldn't say Paul necessarily the best 10 players in the world, although in the case of Michael Hooper, he's probably definitely the best in his position in the world. You could virtually argue that Mario Itoje, in my opinion, I personally think he's the premier lock in the world at the moment. Paul, a few people might dispute that, but boy, I'd have him every day of the week. Cheslin Colby, yep, definitely right up there as probably one of the best outside backs in the world. Is Finn Russell the best first 5 in the world? Oh, that's probably quite debatable. Is Eben Etzebeth the 3rd best lock in the world? Not in my opinion. And Charles Piatow, well, we just don't get to see him play international rugby these days, so we don't know. Virami Vakatawa is just an immense talent and obviously the highest paid Fijian player in the world. You wouldn't have thought that a couple of years ago. And Owen Farrell still commanding a really big salary as well. But are they the best players in the world? No, not necessarily. But well, I think
when you say Fijian player,
yeah,
Vakatawa plays for France. So
yeah.
Yeah,
and
born in New Zealand as well. So
yeah, yeah, I think they probably fit those specific markets, but you also see that some of these guys, no sooner than they're playing test matches, they're back on a plane back to their club the following week. So they pay the price for it.
No, absolutely they do. And you've got to. I mean, Cheslin Colby, unfortunately, has spent the whole chunk of time out injured now. How much of that is down to the amount of rugby he's having to play, we don't know. But I just find it interesting that we've got 3 outside backs in that, or centre outside back for Vakatawa in that list. Not surprised to see 4 fly halves in there with Pollard, Russell, Bowden Barrett, and Farrell in there. Now, should Richard Mwanga be in there? Well, hey, he hasn't taken a sabbatical up to Japan. That's why he's not in there. So yes, but you got to say, if you head over to France, that's where you want to be. I'm a bit surprised that Bowden Barrett and Michael Hooper, look, they're the only players who have played in Japan that are on this list. Now, clearly, both of them have managed to have boosted that with their national contracts, because they're both taking sabbaticals to go over to Japan rather than actually just left en masse. So they take their New Zealand rugby or Rugby Australia salary and added on a Japan one on top. But a bit surprised that there aren't any other players here that from Japanese clubs. Now, is that more about not knowing how much they get paid over there? Is it an exchange rate issue? I don't know. Or is Japan paying that much less than France? I don't know. the of the England-based players, obviously Itoje and Farrell, two homegrown players for Saracens. Clearly, they're their marquee players, and obviously Saracens had its issues or question marks and around how it's managed that salary cap there. But Charles Piatow, the only other one in there that's from there. All the rest are kind of so three from England, two from sort of Japan/Oceania, and then five from Japan, five from France, which that probably gives you an idea as to where the financial muscle is.
Paul, I was going to say it's kind of disappointing that we don't see Charles Piatow playing international rugby, because we know he is a good player. I mean to say in Premiership rugby, as we know, he just stands out something awful when he's actually playing. His ability to beat players, his footwork, his strength. We know how good he is, and I don't know. It's just not having him playing international rugby. I just think we're kind of missing something. I don't know whether does he qualify for Tonga now, or not yet, or not at all.
Not at all, because what happened was that the date for the repechage game for the Rugby World Cup, for the Olympic Sevens, moved, so it clashed with a playoff game at the end of the season for Bristol, and he decided that, or whether it wasn't released or he decided to, however you want to word it, he didn't go to that tournament, and therefore didn't get the release, therefore didn't use the Olympic loophole to get released from his one cap or 3 or 4 cap, whatever it is, capture that he has with the All Blacks. Now, was this a case of the All Blacks capping someone just to capture them and then not select them again? No, it's not. The All Blacks had Charles Piatow very much in their plans. He had a contract with his with his agent. He'd even signed the contract as well, but hadn't returned it to New Zealand Rugby, and therefore it wasn't legally binding yet. Got an offer in from Ulster, I think it was, at a stupendous amount of money, i.e. that £1 million a year piece, making him the most best paid player in the world. At which point, unsurprisingly, for a player who has a whole bunch of brothers and sisters, has I think at the time, I can't remember if it was him or Fekatoa that mentioned that basically they used to sleep in the garage because there wasn't enough rooms in the house. So look, comes from a poor background, has a big family to support. Was going to add a zero or getting on towards that sort of level to his to his income. Who doesn't go and earn 10 years worth of income in 1 year? So you can understand why he did it, and it was all totally legal above board. But the All Blacks head coaches got very upset about this because he'd agreed a contract but hadn't actually signed and returned it, and therefore they threw their toys out the pram at that point. Which is why you've seen other players go overseas and be selected after they've said they're going overseas. He wasn't on that one. Interesting one here where the Nocturnal Right says, talking about the rich list and the IRB Players of the Year, saying how certain positions get it more than others. So I just thought I'd bring up the list of the World Player of the Year, because it's not been around that long, in all honesty. And we'll have a look and go through and just have a quick chat about who they are and I guess a propensity around positions. So Keith Wood in there was the very first one back in 2001. So we've got a hooker, Fabien Galtier, the scrum half, Johnny Wilkinson, a fly half, Schalkberger, a flanker. Then we head into the a bit of the start of kind of the New Zealand dominance of this with Dan Carter at fly half, Rich McCaw as a flanker, Brian Habana and Shane Williams and a couple of wingers. Back to Richie for a couple of years. Thierry Desautois around that final in 2011, another flanker. Then we hit Dan Carter and Kieran Reid, Brody Retallick, fly half, number 8 and lock. Back to Dan Carter, over to Bowden Barrett. And then we hit fly half domination here. Bowden Barrett, Jonathan Sexton, and finally Peter Steph-Toy. So looking at that, no centres, only one scrum half. No props, no hookers have been selected in there. The only lock is Brody Retallick. A lot of basically a lot of show ponies getting in the fly half role, plus a few hard workers in the flankers.
I was going to say, didn't Steph Toy play a little bit at lock as well? Lock could play lock in and six, but I think primarily he definitely played six. So yeah, for those other positions, you guys need to get your act together. It's as simple as that. One player who I think if he can find consistency in his game in terms of a prop is definitely Taniela Tupou. I think just with his amazing skill set, and if he can find the complete game, I think somewhere in his career he could go along and definitely pick up this trophy without too many troubles. But when we start looking around at centres, boy, we really are scratching around there.
Well, yes, exactly. Look, we're not in a vintage centre age at the moment, let's be honest. We've just come out of one with players like Brian O'Driscoll, Conrad Smith, Matt Anonu. I'm trying to think of some other players there as well. But so we had a period where we had a lot of really good centres. Now we're going through a bit of a lean patch, really globally, I would say. And we're seeing quite a few players. I mean, like Owen Farrell playing 12 quite a bit, not only for England but also for the British and Irish Lions as well. So I think we are in a bit of a period of not many standout players in the centres. But I mean, we've got a couple of cracking scrum halves, though. Obviously, over in France, I've just gone blank as the player's name there. Anton Dupont over in France. We've got, and obviously Aaron Smith over here. So a couple there that could pick up a World Player of the Year. Obviously, Aaron Smith has missed far too much rugby this year through the birth of his son. So it was a son or daughter. We don't know yet. It's arriving in November. So we don't know yet what that's going to be. So we'll have to wait and see as to whether we'll see another, or whether we'll see a scrum half get it in the next couple of years. The Nocturnal Rights thinks that 2017 version of Bowden Barrett was lucky, nowhere as good as the 2016 version. Well, hey, maybe living on his reputation a bit there on that one. Who knows? But I would guess that this year, being a Lions year, that we've got we should probably look at. I think we'll probably look at seeing a what do you call it? I'm on blank now. One of the players who was part of the British and Irish Lions tour getting involved. I wouldn't be surprised to see a South African player pick it up this year because of that, Stephen.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think somewhere in the future, you mentioned Dupont before. Of course, fantastic scrum half from Toulouse, and of course he teams up with his French teammate Intermac as well. So those two combination are amazing. I mean, so they were very, very good for Toulouse yesterday when they put away Castres quite comfortably, 41-0. And I was just watching some of the skills of these two off the ball. They are sensational players, and they are only young. And if we remember, they're only really in their early 20s as well. So they will probably definitely be winners of that particular award somewhere along the line. But in terms of South Africa, well, when you consider they beat the British Lions this year, they've once again getting that. Whilst they didn't perform in the Rugby Championship, they did get that win. But you've got to think about the amount of rugby that they put in this year. And if I had to probably mention a couple of players, I reckon Luke Diaga, is it? Luke Diaga? I think he probably puts himself in the frame a little bit. He's been, to me, I think he's been very, very good. I think they just had that really sort of bad pitch in the Rugby Championship, but I think consistently, I think he's been one of the really, really good Springbok players throughout the season.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's him. Chesley Colby obviously been far too injured, even though he is a fantastic player. Peter Sefton-Toy, who's won it before, has also been a winner of it, but again has been injured for most of the season. after getting injured in the opening lines test for that one. So yeah, Ludiago, yeah, very good call on that one. Folks, look, please let me know at Driving More on Twitter, or you can email me, paul@nzsportradio.com. Who do you think will pick up the World Player of the Year, or be nominated even this year? Be interested to see that one. Josh thinks that Will Jordan has potential to be a winner of its best finisher out there. Yeah, he's got to actually nail on a starting All Blacks jersey first. Let's be honest. Being part of that team against the USA shows that he's not in the first thoughts of the All Blacks selectors currently.
Paul, there is one other player that's just struck a chord with me, and it's actually really remiss of me to actually forget him. It wouldn't be surprised me if it's Michael Hooper either.
Yeah, no, as you said that was, as it went up with one other player, I'm thinking, oh yes, of course, we just talked about him as one of the top paid players in the world, and how he is the best in his position. Yes, so yeah, Michael Hooper could be in there. I mean, Sia Khaleesi, whilst I don't think he's necessarily the best player, I think the fact that because he's captained the team, there may be kind of an emotional piece around that, that he may get a few votes from that point of view. So I could see Sia Khaleesi getting nominated, but I don't think he should necessarily win the award for that one. But it'll be interesting to see who does get nominated from all of that kind of stuff. Now, look, folks, we've overrun. I didn't even realize what the time was, which shows you that I'm really enjoying the chat, which is great to see. So thank you again, Stephen, for joining me. Folks, I will be having a chat with the Attacking Scrum podcast this evening, so do look out for that to come out later in the week. The Attacking Scrum podcast is a Welsh podcast, so obviously looking forward to the All Blacks versus Wales this evening. Also, folks, I will be putting something up on Trade Me for those of you in New Zealand, which is a horses stable. You might think that's a bit strange, but yes, we've come up with a toy horses stable. So if you've got kids that enjoy horses and playing with toy horses, then do look out for that. I'll put it on my socials as I try and sell it, and let me know what your thoughts are on that as well. But thank you, Stephen. Thank you, everyone who's joined in the live chat, and everyone stay safe, get vaccinated. Let's get us back to normal as soon as possible.